Okay. So coming just to face your screen in a way that is good for you. You can have that screen wherever it makes sense. I'm gonna ask you just to bring about 4 fingers between your big toes. And we're gonna do just a little warm up for shoulders, a little bit of our moon salutation today, and then we're gonna come to the floor to do some work in opening up hips, torso, and spine. So just for a moment, especially if you've been stuck at a desk, give yourself a little wiggle through shoulders. You might give yourself a little wiggle through the hips, maybe a little bend through the knees. And then I'm going to ask you, this is going to sound a little strange, but I'd like you to pick up one foot and press it into your mat as hard as you can. And you pick up the other foot and press it into your mat as hard as you can. Do that a couple of times. This sense of really connecting to the earth, pressing back down, and then give that eyeball for about 4 fingers between. That deep pressure in the soles of the feet. And draw shoulders up into your ears. And as you exhale gently, so we're going to go really gently, they just get to melt away from your ears. We'll do that 2 more times. Drawing shoulders up, and they gently melt away. One last time, drawing shoulders up, and they gently melt away. So just pausing here in this really solid strength building stance. Our feet are connected to the earth. We have a little micro softening of those knees, a bit of release through the low back, and those shoulders have melted away from the ears. And take a moment to take inventory. Maybe you're a person who likes to really methodically work through the body. So checking in from the feet through the top of the head. Maybe you're a person who just allows yourself to notice whatever might be arising for you. Just a brief moment to notice sensation, to check in, see how everything is going. If no sensation is present or nothing's in your awareness, that's okay too. We just allow ourselves to be with what is in our notice. And we're always practicing these skills of tuning into the physical body. Because when we tune into the physical, the thinking mind has to quiet. It doesn't have a choice. So noticing sensation, noticing what might be arising for you, what might be present. And then the caveat there is to notice with curiosity. So as things might be arising, can you ask yourself questions about those sensations that leave that self-judgment out of it? We'll take one more deep inhale and longer exhale. And today we're going to work with the breath very physically. So normally I ask you to notice it and where you're expanding into. What I'm going to ask you to do is just take your hands, if you will, interlace those fingers and bring them right about 2 or 3 fingers below your belly button. And this physical breath, we're going to draw it right up from the belly as we inhale. And then as we exhale, arms reach out, palms face down, and we just come right back through to our core, to our hara. We inhale up the spine, right through the top of the head, and exhale, letting palms press that exhale down. Inhaling right up through the spine, and exhaling. So normally I don't get too woo-woo with my veterans, so I like to give them a fair warning. Here comes some woo. We're inhaling up, we're drawing our life force energy up, our prana. And as we exhale, we're releasing really what no longer serves us. So that invitation to think about it that way is helpful. Allow yourself to think about inhaling, drawing our life force energy up. Exhale, we get to get rid of what no longer serves us. Now, if that is not helpful, leave it. If it doesn't resonate, no worries. We're going to do this 2 more times. We're warming up shoulders and we're breathing. Nothing bad ever happened from that, right? We're going to exhale to press or let go of what no longer serves you. Last time, inhaling and exhaling. Now that is a great energy builder. So if you are feeling tired, if you're feeling like you need some energy, lifting up through the center and pressing it out through the sides is a nice way to regain some energizing in the physical system. So when you're ready, your right hand now is closest to this lotus. So right hand is going to slide down the leg. And we're opening this side body, and we have some choices to make with our left hand. Left hand might stay low. It might reach about shoulder height, or if it's appropriate for your shoulder, it might reach all the way over. And I'm trying to ground through this opposite foot. So remember when we pressed that foot in at the beginning of class, really grounding through, so I find that stretch. We'll do one more breath here. And then we'll rise back up through center. We'll do it on the other side. So left hand slides. Head is nice and loose. Arm makes a choice of where it would like to be, where it's comfortable for you. Your sides do not have to match, especially if you're working with shoulder injury. And breathing here. Noticing how does this side feel compared to the other. One more deep inhale and exhale. On your next inhale, we rise back up through center. We're going to do it again on the other side. Right hand reaches down. This time, instead of arm reaching, left arm slides behind the back. And we allow our ear to drop a little closer to that right shoulder. So releasing the neck structure and shoulder structure of that left side while we're opening up some space for breath. A little bit of space too to stretch some areas that might be quite tight if you've been seated for a while. We're going to rise back up through center and we switch sides. Left hand slides down, right hand slides behind the back and letting that left ear go towards that left shoulder. Still pressing down really solidly with both feet, maybe exaggerating the press through that right foot. Noticing as we're paying attention to the upper body, did you lock out the lower body? Are your knees locked out? Did your pelvis and your buttons fire? And can we let those go? We'll come back up through center. Bringing hands to heart, we're going to do a little bit of twisting. So I'm just going to ask you to inhale, reach fingertips towards the ceiling. We're going to twist to the right first, which means your left hand comes forward. I'm going to look over my right shoulder. I inhale through center, and here we're letting knees and hips move as they need to. I exhale through that left side. Inhale through center, and exhale right. Now we might add the gaze. So as I come through center, perhaps I look up at the ceiling if my neck allows. I exhale, twist to the left. Inhale through center, exhale, twisting right. We'll do this last one. Inhale through center, exhale, twist. Coming back through center, letting hands come back to heart. I'm just going to turn mine sideways so you can see how I'm holding them, maybe. So I've clasped my hands, but I have my index finger and thumb free. I'm going to inhale to reach my fingertips overhead. I'm going to turn sideways here for just a second. So for me to be comfortable in my shoulders, my arms are a little bit forward. Yours might be a little bit higher. That's a lot of strain on my neck, so I keep mine just a little bit more forward. You might find having hands clasped is just not a good idea, so you can go back to what looks like more of your warrior one arms. With those clasped hands, we're going to inhale over to the right side and exhale as we come back through center. Long, strong arms. Inhale over left. And exhale back through center. Knees soft, pelvis release, buns trying not to grip. Coming back through center. And then we go one more time left. Coming back through center. Hands come down into our cactus arms. And we're going to take about a 2-foot step apart. So about 2 feet between your heels. When you're ready, bending knees and coming into a squat. So we have our core engaged. I'm drawing my belly in, tucking my tailbone, and holding here in what we'll call horse pose today. So I might be squeezing shoulder blades towards each other, tucking tailbone, firing up these large muscles of the legs, getting those quads to fire up. this open space. We're gonna do a little movement here. So I'm gonna straighten legs, no lion's face today. We're just gonna lengthen arms and exhale, bend knees, bend elbows. Inhale, lengthen up and through. Exhale, bend. Now your bend might get lower, inhale, if your knees agree to it. Exhale, you might go into a pretty deep squat. Inhale, if your knees don't agree to it, it might be a fairly small squat to protect those knees. Pausing here, bring your hands to your hips. You're gonna take your left foot and just turn that left foot to the back of your mat or the front of your mat, depending on how you're positioned. So if you're looking at me, I've got my hips open to the screen, left toes pointing, right foot planted, as we typically do at an angle or parallel. Taking that left hand, it comes to the inner thigh. Now, if you're on the other side, doesn't matter. We're gonna do both sides. So just continue on the side that you're on. We'll pause here and decide where we'd like that back arm. Do we wanna let it lift up? All the way up and over, your version of triangle. So some of you might be a little bit deeper and wider with the feet, a little bit lower. Arm again is up to you. We'll bend into your front knee and we're gonna turn to that front knee. Back foot is still planted, both hips aiming towards your left toes, and we'll slide hands behind the back, either gripping fingers, wrists, or elbows, giving those shoulder blades a nice good squeeze. We'll straighten our front leg, and with hands behind our back, we're gonna take our bow. Just a reminder, if this makes you dizzy, keep the head higher than the heart. If you feel like you can go a little bit lower, allowing yourself to lower as much as it makes sense to feel a sensation of opening, stretch, or resistance in the backs of the legs, in that low back. When you're ready with your inhale, rise up. Go ahead and bend into that front knee just to protect it. Bring hands back to hips. We're gonna turn, so we're back to that original squat position, toes pointing out. Let's let ourselves stay put here with hands. Coming into our squat, we're gonna do a little bit of side work. So I'm gonna start by just rocking side to side and get some information about my back. If my back agrees to this, I might start to involve my arms, reaching one up and the other down. Letting yourself breathe as you reach. And again, just noticing what makes sense for you. Adjusting, hands might stay at hips. You might simply be in a squat. You don't have to go side to side. We're gonna do one more on each side. Coming back through center and reaching. Last time. We'll take those arms, go ahead and bring them right back at your hips. This time your right foot is gonna turn. So we're gonna turn that right foot. That back foot adjusts in a way that makes sense. We'll keep those legs nice and straight. A few of you might go wider stance for your triangle. Hips are aiming towards that screen. We're just gonna start to slide that hand down. This backhand, lots of choices. Behind the back, lifting to any spot that makes sense for you. Pausing here to fully breathe. Now, it's hard to hold these longer. And part of the reason we hold these longer, you hear me say often, is to find some energetic components of this. Especially at night, we're trying to release energy that we've built up during the day or collected during the day. Go ahead and bend into that front knee. We're gonna shift our hips forward. And this time, instead of hands going back, we'll bring them into our warrior one arms where they're reaching straight up, or cactus arms where elbows are bent. Pausing to breathe here, noticing how that feels. And when you're ready, hands swing down by your side. We straighten that front leg. Now you can hold on to hips if you like. You can slide behind the back. You can keep those arms flying as we give ourselves that bow forward, head higher than the heart for dizziness, or if you like, lowering a little bit further down for a deeper stretch. Now, all of this matters really, or depends, I should say, on how you're feeling this in the back of the thighs and the low back. So we make the adjustments that make sense to allow ourselves to be in this, maybe with a level of discomfort, but no pain for sure. When you're ready, we rise back up, bending into that front knee, hands come to hips. We're gonna turn toes. So we got those toes out. We're gonna go one more time into our squat. So squat might be able to get a little bit deeper, or we may be feeling the opposite, and I always do. After this third one, my knees are talking to me, so I'm not gonna go quite as low. If you like, you can bring those cactus arms into play and just tuck in tailbone, drawing belly in. Getting a sense of how this is feeling through the tops of the thighs, the tops of the shoulders. And then when you're ready, hands come down, legs straight. We're gonna heel toe those feet towards each other and give everything a nice little wiggle and a bounce if you need to. Hands come back to heart, feet about 3 fingers width apart. We're gonna do our half sun salutation here, or halfway lift sun salutation. So inhaling, fingertips reach. As you exhale, soft bend knees. We're gonna get some rounding to that back, or if swan dive is part of your practice, pressing into shins or thighs, we halfway lift. Exhale, release back down, arms reach wide. As I inhale, rise up. See if you can push through the outside edges of your feet as you come up to ground you. Exhale, hands come back to heart. Inhale, fingertips reach. Exhale, either soft bent knees or swan dive. Pressing hands into thighs or shins. Inhale, halfway lift. This time as we exhale, we're gonna stay put there. Head is resting, trying to look through those legs. Arms might dangle, or we might grab hold of that opposite elbow and just allow ourselves to hang out here, feeling some weight through that upper body. Maybe give your head a little nod yes, or a shake no. Fully breathing in a way that expands. So maybe we think about side rib cage, back bottom rib cage. Can we breathe into that space? Sometimes the answer is no, and that's okay. The more we think about it traveling there, the more it will travel there. One last breath. We'll let our hands dangle towards the floor. We're gonna use an exhale to protect that back as we slowly roll back up. Once we're up, I'd like you, if you will, to draw shoulders up, back, and down. And I'm gonna turn sideways so you can see my elbows are pushing back. My shoulder blades are squeezing together. But what hasn't changed is the shift in the hips. I still have my hips right above my heels, just squeezing to open up that heart center. Really trying to undo some of the day's work through this collarbone area. When you're ready, go ahead and give yourself the letter X. My right arm is on top. It's gonna make an X. Some of us are gonna make a letter V, and we'll stop there. Some of us are gonna get to the letter I, or an interlaced I. And again, I'm gonna turn sideways so you can see me. We're gonna inhale to press fingertips up towards the ceiling, and exhale, let them come on back down. So this stretch of those shoulder blades, inhaling up and exhaling back down. One last time on this side, inhaling up and exhale back down, letting those arms go and give them a good swing. We're gonna go to the other side. Left arm makes the top of the X. We find our letter V, our I, and interlaced I. When you're ready, inhale, fingertips reach. Exhale, elbows settle down. Inhale up. And exhale. One last time. Inhaling up. Exhale, hands come back down and give them that little swing. We are going to be coming to our mats in a kneeling position or tabletop position. So we're going to get there how we get there. It doesn't have to be fancy. So coming into tabletop. We've got our palms on, or our fists if palms are a little bit difficult, wrists are a little bit difficult. We talked last week a little bit about rocking, and we're going to rock again, and that stimulates something in our inner ear that helps us relax. We're going to do it with more of a sort of cat-cow idea. So as I round my back, I tuck my tailbone, pressing my hips back towards my heels. And then I'm going to pull myself forward. My elbows might even bend as I let my belly drop, my chin lift to come forward. You can make this as big or as little as you like. If rocking back and forth just isn't a good idea for all kinds of joints, let yourself just be in tabletop, doing that regular cat-cow. Let's do 3 more of those. Exhaling to press back, or just to find that cat. And then inhale, belly drops, chin comes through those thumbs. Exhale, press. Inhale, drawing forward. I'm really trying to pull myself forward, heart right through the thumbs last time. Exhale, press back. Inhale, coming up and through. Then we land back in our tabletop. So I'm going to ask you to bring your right foot forward. Right foot comes between those hands. Remember, sometimes we got to swing that foot around to get it in between those hands. Once we're here, we're going to take that left leg and walk it back just a little bit further. So we're in a low lunge to open up the front of the thigh. Now, it was very intense in the hip structure. Just bring yourself up so hands are pressing on. That's a little balance challenge, so you can always move that front foot a little wider. You might find framing the foot doesn't allow you to go deep enough. So you might bring hands inside the foot to feel this stretch through the front of that thigh. Giving ourselves just 2 more breaths here. And then we're going to shift back. So I'm going to walk back until I can start to begin to straighten my front leg. Leg does not have to be straight to feel this stretch. You might find that you can straighten it and flex feet. There may be a few of you who can go back to the heel and have a nice forward fold. The place, again, that makes sense for you. If it's tough to be on that floor, hands can come back up to the knees, some version of straightening that front leg. 2 more breaths here for that hamstring opener. We'll bend into the front knee, letting both knees join each other. We come back to our tabletop and we're gonna shake our tail. We go to the other side now. Left foot comes through or swings around to come through. We make some decisions. We're gonna walk that right leg back a little bit. We might be up, we might be framing the foot, we might be inside. Doing your best here to really let the weight of the front of that thigh pull you a little closer to the mat. So we're giving into a little bit of gravity here. Getting a deeper stretch to the front of that thigh. As you feel ready, we'll adjust. We'll shift weight to the back knee. We start to straighten that front leg in some form or fashion. Maybe fully straight with a flex foot. Perhaps you go all the way back to rest on the heel. There are going to be some of us who have a bent knee and hands a little bit higher. Hamstrings stretch, those hamstrings, 3 of them in the backs of our thighs. Get really tight through the day, especially when we are seated. They get tight and short. So we're encouraging them to open up just a little bit. 1 more breath here. And when you're ready, both knees come back. We're going to press back into our version of child's pose. So we might go all the way back, resting head. Some of you might like wide knee child's pose where the knees are wide and toes are closed together. Some of us knees don't agree to this or back doesn't agree to this. So we're going to be on elbows and knees just simply rounding in what looks like the cap part of our cat-cow. This restorative space. Breathing deeply here. Maybe bringing attention to the breath. Where does it expand into? One more deep inhale and longer exhale. On our inhale, we'll rise up. We're going to come into a seated position. So if you happen to have yoga blocks or a pillow handy and you want to sneak those under your buns, go for it. Coming into a comfortable seat, we're going to be working through the torso for this first part, and then we'll worry about the legs. So comfortable seat, whatever the legs want to be doing. Maybe they're long, perhaps they're crisscross. Maybe you're more in a turtle where the soles of the feet are on and the knees are bent. So coming into this space where we consider the torso. So think about that pelvic floor or your sits bones, so two bony things in your bottom. We are trying to get those solidly connected. So I'm going to ask you just to wiggle, especially if you're on blocks, we want to wiggle and settle into that so we feel grounded. And once we're grounded, no matter where you're at here with the legs, we're going to take just a very gentle twist to the right. So I began to twist right. I might use my head to look over the shoulder, not nearly as deep as I think that I could go. So just for now, a nice gentle twist. I almost said a nice deep twist. I mean a nice gentle twist. And then coming back through center, we're going to go ahead and twist to the other side, left side as we twist. Taking a few inhales and exhales. And then coming back through center. We're going to work this torso in a bit of a seated cat-cow. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see me. So I'm going to be in crisscross, but once again, your legs can be straight or bent knees. Allow my hands just to rest where it makes sense. So for me, just a bit over the knees and shin. I'm going to take a little bow forward, nodding my chin, and then I slowly start to roll up as if I could push my shoulder blades into the back wall. And then I'm going to reverse that. So it's almost like I'm diving for my legs, and I lift my head to come back up and sit tall. So this first one, dive forward, round back, exhale to slowly roll up to sit tall. And then we dive with that forehead as if we're diving for our mat. We lift the forehead a little bit as we rise back up into a seated position. Let's do that 3 more times. So coming forward, flat back, and then rounding to restack spine. And then take a dive towards your mat. Lift that chin, that forehead as you rise back up into that seated position. 2 more times. Coming forward and then rounding back. Push the back of the heart towards the ceiling as you rise up. And then dive forward with that forehead, aiming towards your mat and lifting back up. Last time, flat back comes forward. We round the back to press to sit tall. And then dive forward, lifting up and through to seated position. From here, we're going to extend our right leg only. So my right leg is going to sneak out. Doesn't have to go too far before we might feel this through that inner thigh. The other leg is bent, or for some of us, it might be sole of the foot on. We're going to stretch a little bit through that hamstring area and actually a little bit of our low back. So I'm going to ask you to twist that torso towards the foot, or towards the leg, I should say. Let's flex the foot. And then we start to think about where we want to go from here. Am I already feeling lots of sensation, and this is fine? Do I want to lean forward a little bit with that long back? How far before I feel like I've reached the fullest expression of my pose, before I've gone to the spot where I feel some sensation, and that sensation might be in the back of the leg, it might be in the low back, and where I can tolerate it without pain. It's going to be a different space for all of us. I don't know how many times I can say this. It is never about the destination in our practice. It's really about the journey. So we're always observing every step of the way, that journey, and then pausing. The destination is sort of determined for us. We don't have to get anywhere as long as we're noticing where we're going. One more breath. We'll rise back up through center, and we're gonna switch it out. So I'm gonna ask you now to stretch that left leg and somehow bring that right foot in. It might, again, still be bent with sole of the foot on. Flexing your left foot and twisting towards your left thigh. We allow ourselves to go where it makes sense. So we might be in the full expression seated tall. You might be able to fold forward a little bit. As you're exhaling, maybe there's more to be gained. Finding that space for yourself. Checking in with the breath. And then we'll rise back up. We'll send both feet out in front of us. So letting both feet come out in front, big toe mounds touch, and we're gonna pull those toes back towards our knees, going into our staff pose. So in this pose, we're gonna feel those legs firing up. Some of us might soften knees so we can get that longer torso. If that softened knee makes sense for you, it's gonna fire those thighs even a little bit more. And we want them to fire. We wanna get them a little bit worn out here. So long torso, legs firing, arms might reach out into a T. Now the full expression here is arms reaching overhead. But if arms going overhead really challenges your back in a way that is so uncomfortable it's leading to pain, then let your arms be out in a T. The further these arms get away from that pelvis and low back, the harder it is on your back. So two options, T or a warrior one arms. And we're gonna be here for 3 more breaths. Deep inhale and exhale. A very strong pose. We think about those buns right now being our feet when we're in mountain pose. One last breath. And then we'll let our hands come down. I'm gonna bend my left knee. I'm gonna bend my left knee and I'm gonna let it hop over the low leg there, the long leg. If it makes sense, it might stay put here. And for now, we're gonna leave that leg long. So take your right hand and bring it to the outside of that knee or thigh and give yourself a very gentle twist. So we're not going too deep yet. We're gonna get there. So inhale to grow a little taller. Exhale, twist just a little bit deeper. This first one, just gently twisting to get our information about how this affects the body and whether or not it's a good idea to be twisting in this way. We'll come back through center and let that knee drop out. Give it a little wiggle or one wing flying here. Extend that left leg out. Your right knee bends now. It might hop over, it might not. We're gonna take the left hand to grab hold of that knee. Right hand just comes to rest gently. We twist towards the right and give ourselves a deep inhale. Exhaling, again, not your deepest version of this twist yet. We're headed there next. This first one is always about gathering information from sensation. So we might know where to take it next, if there's some place to go. We'll come back through center, let that knee drop out, give it a little butterfly, and then kick that leg out. Okay, so here we go. We are gonna go into a deeper stretch. So we start by bending that left leg. It might stay there. It might hop over. There may be a few of you who draw that bottom foot in. The bottom foot does not have to come in, especially if it makes your ship list. We'll take either palm or elbow or outside of your elbow to do this next twist. So I'm going to begin to exhale, letting my hand travel behind me. I inhale to grow taller, and I use that leverage of my palm or my elbow to exhale to twist deeper. Now we're wringing out muscle. We're trying to let go of tension we may have built up through the day, through that entire torso, and even in the organs, the abdominal cavity. 2 more breaths here. Deep inhale. Exhale, maybe a little deeper twist. When you're ready, go ahead and come back through center. We're going to take both legs this time and they extend out and you give them that little windshield wiper. You get to slouch and wiggle if that feels good. We'll go to the other side. So this time we bend that right knee. We might let it hop over. That bottom leg might come underneath. We'll take that opposite hand, that left, oops, yeah, the left hand, I had to think about that. And we might do hand to elbow or outside of the elbow to twist. Those of you who take with me, you know I cannot tell my right from my left. And I get snookered into it every time in a twist where I get it all mixed up. So inhaling to grow longer and taller, exhale to twist a little bit deeper. One more inhale and exhale to twist just a little bit deeper. We'll come on back through center, letting both legs reach out. They're gonna go a little bit wider this time. We are gonna do a turtle stretch. So bending knees, soles of feet come on. We're gonna let our hands come through the center and just round forward. Now for a few of you, your turtle might look a little bit different. Arms might slide underneath and you might be able to go just a little bit deeper depending on hip structure. You might be able to begin to extend the legs. And as I often like to say in my Wednesday night classes, we'll worry about that next week. It's a next week worry. So if we don't get that deep, no worries. Fully breathing here to stretch that low back. One more breath. And then we'll rise back up. We're gonna go ahead and bring soles of the feet together. So soles of the feet together or back to turtle again if your hips don't allow for this. And instead of folding forward, we're actually going to grow a little bit taller. So I'm just gonna turn sideways so you can see my spine. Now your feet can be fairly close or fairly far away. I'm grabbing hold of what I can get hold of. So maybe it's knees, shins, ankles. And as I inhale, I'm trying to grow really long through my spine. So I feel that intensity perhaps through those back muscles and core muscles first. And just pausing here with that long lengthened spine. And if it makes sense, you might start to hinge forward. And again, you may be in the full expression of your pose where you are nice, long, and tall. And we continue on the exhale to find the space that makes sense for us. It might be lower, it might be higher. We're gonna do 2 more breaths here. So finding again the space that makes sense for you and holding there once you've found it and breathing. We'll rise back up. We're gonna come to rest on our bellies. And before we do that, I wanna show you where we're headed. So if I were laying on my belly right now, my heart would be off. My hands are gonna be almost like I'm trying to grip my mat with my fingertips. And my elbows are up towards the ceiling. So as I come down, we're trying to find that space. We're gonna stretch the front of the shoulders. So I'm gonna bring my fingertips on and I'm gonna play with where that makes sense for me. My heart is off, my head is off, and then I'm gonna start this rotation. So I'm gonna take my right shoulder, roll it forward as if I could touch my shoulder to my mat. And then I come on back through center. And then I rotate my left shoulder forward as if I could get my shoulder to touch the mat. And I just start to alternate here. I may find for myself that it feels better to stay put on one side. One side might be tighter than the other. It might feel better to hold a little longer than to continue to move side to side. So allowing yourself to move here or stay put. We're going to do about 2 more on each side if you are moving back and forth. Big opener for the front of the chest and for these muscles that are chronically tight in the front of the shoulder, just below the collarbone. We'll do 1 more on each side. And then we're going to stack forearms and send your feet pretty darn wide. So our feet go wide, and this is one of those poses that is meant to spark a relaxation response. So we're gonna do just a few breaths here. This is called crocodile. We'll rest our head on our arms, feet are wide. And we notice here when we inhale, how many beats does it take us to breathe in? There's no right or wrong answer. And in fact, your inhale will vary, probably, the number of beats. So give yourself about 2 or 3 breaths to notice the number of beats it takes you to breathe in. Now, what we're doing with the legs is allowing the low back to release and making it difficult for our buns to hold any tension. That's why they're wider. We're going to take the average number of beats it takes us to breathe in, and we're going to see if we can extend the exhale by just 1 beat. So for instance, if it takes me 4 beats to breathe in, I'm exhaling for 5. We're going to do that for the next 5 breaths. Let go of the breath pattern if you feel out of breath. Here we go, counting for yourself, extending your exhale by 1 beat. We let go of the breath pattern. We have a choice here. We may shift into child's pose. We're going to be there for 10 breaths. You may prefer to be here for 10 breaths. So allow yourself to choose either crocodile or pressing back into your version of child's pose for 10 breaths. These longer holds, deep pressure on the belly, inspiring relaxation response in the body, we hope. We're working with that vagus nerve, that bidirectional nerve that's offering some information to our brain right now with that deep pressure. Hopefully our brain will take us up on it. So fully inhaling and exhaling. If you're in crocodile, maybe you continue that slightly longer exhale. You might do it in child's pose as well. About 8 more breaths here. Last 2 breaths, full deep inhales and exhales. We're going to shift onto our backs. So taking your time, you can roll over those ankles, you can press back into child's pose if you're in crocodile. Just bring yourself to rest on your back. My back just popped big time when we're resting here on our backs, drawing knees into the chest. Give it a little rock side to side. we're going to do a little bit of an energy wash, or letting some of that energy wash into our upper chakra. So we're going to pretend we have a wall. And this one is really not meant to be so restorative or relaxing as if we really did have a wall. And we'll send our legs up towards the ceiling. And there's a couple of ways to think about this. Knees can still be soft and legs aiming up. If this bugs your back, you can also take your hands and place them right underneath your hip structure, right underneath that sacrum, to help tilt the pelvis a little bit. So finding the space where we can send those legs up towards the ceiling in a version of legs up the wall. Now, it's definitely a core builder. You might feel those legs working fairly strongly through the tops of those legs, especially you might feel some stretch through the back of the legs. It's always worth noting too, what else might be present for you? What sensations are you noticing here? As always, it's okay if sensation is not present or in your awareness at this moment. We invite ourselves to be with what is in our notice, or with what is in this moment. Just 2 more breaths here. When you're ready, gently bringing those feet to the floor. We're going to go into our bridge pose. For anybody who does shoulder stand or a plow, this is a great place to do that. And if you are working with neck stuff or shouldn't be going up and over in that deep flexion, stay with me. I'm going to go into bridge. So hands are down by your side. We're going to lift that belly up towards the ceiling. I have the weight of my upper body between my shoulder blades. And if my arms and shoulders allow, I'm going to clasp my hands and squeeze my shoulders, just a little, shoulder blades a little bit closer together. Now at the same time, deep pressure through my feet. I'm pressing through my big toes, trying to keep myself really honest through those inner thighs. Inhaling and exhaling fully here. And again, the weight is in the shoulders. If you feel like it's in the back of the skull or the back of the neck, you want to lower your hips just a little bit. We're too high. We're just putting too much pressure on the back of that skull. Last 2 deep inhales and exhales. And then we're going to give ourselves a big bear hug as we slowly roll down, or coming out of plow, or coming out of shoulder stand. Extending legs long, reaching arms overhead if shoulders allow. If shoulders don't allow, we might keep that soft bent elbow, thinking maybe more 90-degree elbow out into a T. So stretching just as long as we can. We're going to get ready to go into a 1 knee twist, a little different than we typically finish class with. So I'm going to ask you to draw your right knee into your chest, and I'm going to be using my same knee, so I'm going to look a little bit opposite of you. Right knee draws into chest, and then we're going to take it across the body. So as I start to go across the body, I see if I can twist enough that I can get that knee to land, which is going to lift my shoulder blade for most of us. And that's okay. We want to have this sort of opening here through the front of the chest and the hip structure. So right knee is hanging out, and hopefully we try to get that over towards the mat. And we let that opposite shoulder just hover. Gaze is towards the ceiling. Since that shoulder is hovering, we're already in a bit of a deep twist with the neck. So just being careful with the neck here. Maybe a bit more of a hip opener or a low back opener. Doing our best here to breathe fully. So this twisting and wringing out is releasing stuff into our bloodstream. It's also releasing energy, so our prana, life force energy. And as we're exhaling, we're inviting what no longer serves us. Maybe that's physical, maybe that's energetic, to leave here in this deep twist. That full breath in and that longer exhale out if possible. And you may find breathing here in a twist is really interesting. It can be quite challenging, especially if we're still trying to open up some space that might be fairly contracted. Let's do 2 more breaths here. We'll come on back through center. And as we come through center, just let that right sole of the foot land on the floor. and the right knee drops out. Just a little counterbalance for that compression in that inner thigh. Just a few breaths there to counterbalance a little half butterfly with the right knee. We'll draw that knee back through center, send that leg long. We're gonna switch sides. So we draw that left knee in and we draw it across the body to see if we can get it to land on the floor. And again, that might or might not happen. This opposite shoulder likely to be hovering. And giving yourself this opportunity to fully breathe. Deep inhales, longer exhales. Let's do 2 more breaths here. When you're ready, drawing that knee back through center, letting the left sole of the foot come on as your hips come on, and that left knee drops out in half butterfly. 2 or 3 breaths here. We'll draw that knee back through center, bending both knees. Soles of the feet come on. We're going to walk our feet fairly wide and just until our knees can drop towards each other with ease. This idea of weight drawing the knees together. And if wrapping your arms around like you're giving yourself a bear hug is helpful and it feels like it's releasing tension, I want to invite you to do that. Sometimes this wrapping around feels like it creates tension. And if it feels like it's creating tension for you, just let the hands hang out down by your side or overhead, wherever it feels most natural to you. Constructive rest pose, this nice reset of our spinal column from our tailbone all the way to the back of our skull. With the arms crossed over, we sometimes, for some of us, get a release through that mid-back area between those shoulder blades. This opportunity to be resting here, pardon me, and perhaps to invite more ease into that spine. Now, ideally, this would be a great one to stay in for about 5 minutes. We're going to be here for about 10 more breaths, but I always like to toss this idea out. If right now you are stuck in a chair that is not your office chair or in a space in your home that is just not set up for you to be doing the work or the relaxation that you want to be doing if you happen to be retired, this is an opportunity to reset some of the tightness that happens in the front and the back of the pelvis, and then in turn transfers all the way up the back. That's why 5 to 10 minutes in that is a nice way to fully relax your spine and a great way to end your day. So especially a nice one to do right before you go to bed. In addition, we have deep pressure on the back side of the body. So we talk about deep pressure on the belly. Deep pressure on your back also inspires a relaxation response. And for any of you who are back sleepers, you know that. You just have to be on your back and you're out. Let's give ourselves about 4 more breaths here. If this spot feels good to you to be in final relaxation, I want to invite you to stay put here. If there's another place you would like to be, resting in child's pose, resting on your side, on your belly, maybe you prefer to rest in Shavasana with the legs straight and arms fairly far apart from your hips, you're welcome to be there. So finding a space for yourself that feels like it can bring the most ease into the body in this moment. It does not have to look like a yoga shape. Anything that feels like it brings ease into the body. And then perhaps take that deep inhale and then exhale out the mouth to settle into the weight of the body where you feel it connected to your mat. That deep inhale and longer exhale, also a way we regulate our central nervous system. It can be very helpful to settle and to ground us. And then we allow the body now to just simply breathe itself, the breath traveling as it chooses. Hopefully a nice, easy breath. And for these last few minutes of class, we invite ourselves to quiet the mind if possible. Sometimes quieting the mind is not possible. Maybe we observe what the mind is doing. The mind is having thoughts and we can name those thoughts. Maybe the invitation looks more like having longer pauses between thoughts. And for these last few moments of class, we let go of all of the doing of our day and we invite ourselves to just simply be, to be resting here in ease for just a few moments here in silence. Beginning to bring awareness back to the sound of my voice, back to the space that you're resting in. Inviting that deeper inhale and that longer exhale. We begin to reawaken the body, maybe wiggling fingers and toes, circling wrists and ankles. It might feel good to stretch arms overhead. It might feel good to draw knees into the chest. In your own way and your own time, we're going to begin to bring ourselves into a seated position that feels comfortable to you. So taking your time, being kind, we've been on our backs for a bit, coming into that seated space that makes sense for you. And when you find that comfortable space, let's just take one moment more here at the end of class to notice how you're feeling. How are you feeling in the physical body? Maybe if it's in your awareness, how are you feeling in the mental and emotional bodies? And if this gesture feels okay to you, we're going to place palms together. We rest our thumbs right in front of our heart. May all be well. May all have peace. And may we all be filled with compassion and loving kindness. The light in me is honored and grateful for the light in each of you. I bow to you. Namaste.